Hello, everyone, and welcome to the finals of the Rockford, Illinois City Championships. I am Josue Crimz Rojano, and with me is Michael Pramawat. We've been watching the top eight. We've been watching, actually, Vince Blasko come out of the top eight and really kind of dominate these last two games, and now he's in the finals against our very own Kyle Sucevich.
Yeah, Vince kind of had a favorable top eight and top four matchups. Both matchups were against the pretty much the same Garbodor deck. And as we saw, that Garbodor has a kind of a bad matchup versus Darkrai Hammers. So we'll see how Kyle does against this deck. Kyle has been piloting the Ho-Oh deck for quite some time now. And here he is again, just kind of going, hey, this deck is still good.
Yeah, Vince actually beat Justin Young and Michael Young, a father and son combination. So Vince actually, I don't know, man. I really don't. By the way, we just saw a mulligan from both players, but I don't know. It feels like we haven't really seen Vince get tested yet. We've seen Vince obviously win 4 games in a row. He's won them decisively, but he hasn't actually played against a matchup that I wouldn't consider necessarily very favorable. And now we see Kyle, who's piloting this deck, man, he's been piloting this deck for as long as I can remember. Literally, it's got to be at least like 6 weeks or something like that. So he's got a ton of experience with this deck. He knows this matchup in and out. And I'm sure that Vince doesn't actually play against Ho very often. So that kind of an experience really does go a long way in this kind of a series.
Well, the Chicago Marathon was pretty much in Kyle's stomping grounds. So after you take down 3 cities, yeah, people start playing Ho-Oh. Fortunately for Kyle, not everyone can pilot Ho as well as he can. So, a lot of the testing, maybe a lot of the experience Vince has against the Ho deck, it might not prove to be as relevant as, he may think it is because, Ho can be a tough deck to pilot, and Kyle is not going to make a mistake here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we're going to have to wait and see who gets to go first. I believe it's going to be Vince. And that actually is a pretty relative advantage. Vince has a stabilized start, which is obviously my favorite way to begin games. And just really, if you get to start abusing things like junk cut, especially for things like random receiver and stuff like that, the game becomes a lot easier. Now, the random receiver just found him an end, which isn't the ideal one usually. Usually you want to go with a Juniper to be able to put some darkness energies in your discard pile. But hey, he'll take it. He needed a supporter.
Yeah, so Kyle's deck it's if you ever see it play, like we are going to watch it now, it's really just watching terrible hands work well together for some reason.
That's one way of putting it, yeah.
So we're going to see a combination of just awful, awful hands that somehow just ends up working, and no one really knows why. Things just kind of happen, and then you just go, hey, that worked out pretty well. Like, for example, this hand from Kyle, he has a Ho-Oh, a useful energy, and an Ultra Ball, and a Sharon.
As long as Sigilif and
Landers.
yeah, Landers.
Initially, he can't really do anything with this hand. But, give it a Sharon later and a Ho-Oh in the discard, and we'll just see where we go from there. Like this hand, it doesn't really do anything.
Now, if you notice, he started playing Sharons. He used to play Biancas. Now, if he had played a Bianca, in order to draw the same amount of cards, he would have had to actually discard a few resources. Now, I'm not saying that's a very important thing to note, but it is kind of cool. It is kind of interesting to see that the Sharon works a little bit better than the Bianca in this type of situation where he would have had to discard before actually drawing his cards to really see what kind of options he has to work with. Now, he is going to Ultra Ball away his Ho-Oh, which is exactly what he wants to do. He wants to put the Ho in the discard pile, but ideally he'd have some energy cards in the discard pile as well.
Yeah, if that Sharon was a little bit more favorable, and, Kyle and I kind of came to the same conclusion about Sharon being, like, better than Bianca and Ho-Oh. I bet, like, 2 different paths. Like, his reasoning was like, yeah, I just kind of tried it out, ended up being good. The way I came to the conclusion, I was just playing PTCGO, and I had 2 full art Biancas and 2 full art Sharons, and I was like, hey, I'm not playing not full art cards on this program. Come on.
Oh man, I actually started playing Skyless just because I had the full art Skyless. So I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. Like I almost like I just want to have all my supporters full arted on that program. It's great. But
Anyways, we're gonna have to see what kind of a strategy Kyle does come up with. He doesn't have any supporters in his hand, I don't believe, and he actually just chooses to pass, not benching anything. Now that does require a lot of patience on Kyle's end, but then again, when his opponent has a Sableye with the only energy on it, you kind of don't feel all too threatened.
yeah, this hand was like, all right. So Vince saw Kyle use Terran last turn.
Yep.
So something there could be a supporter lurking in Kyle's hand, which we know there isn't. However, this is like the one turn where Kyle can kind of get away with this like bad hand if Vince had played a N. However, that does not happen. Thus, if Kyle doesn't play a supporter next turn, Vince is gonna know this is like the one time you just don't go N. You just attack.
Yeah, what was interesting was Kyle plays his Ultra Ball, and he chose to keep his Pokemon in his hand. Maybe he was trying to convince Vince to convince Vince. He was trying to convince Vince to actually N away that Pokemon from his hand. I'm not actually too sure, but it was pretty interesting. It was cool to watch, and unfortunately, it didn't work out.
Yeah, well, what this kind of signals is like, basically, I was more like a defensive play. He didn't want like one of his spare Pokemon to be captured up. He'd rather just have the Bouffalant just take damage. It has the Boofer ability, so it'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Now, we see a random receiver off of Vince. Vince is hoping not to hit an N here, but he'll probably take what he can get. He does hit that N, unfortunately for him, and he's going to be put in a position where he's not sure if he wants to play it or not. Obviously, the board advantage is going to him. The fact that his opponent didn't do anything other than just play an energy switch and bench that Terrakion might make him want to change his mind, or not change his mind, but might want to make him just not play the actual supporter. We're going to have to wait and see if Vince chooses to pull the trigger or not. And he does. I don't really like that. I wish he hadn't. I think even though he was only going to be able to retaliate, the fact that his opponent would have probably been able to draw a pass with his board position, I would have really liked to see a different play out of Vince.
Yeah, I mean, you saw your opponent not do anything really, and back in the top four, maybe he's traveling through time to hear us, but back in the top four, he was kind of being too fancy with ends, and now it's just like, this was the time to be fancy.
Yeah, because even if he just draws something as simple as a darkness energy, if his opponent just drew past, he can actually go back and just retreat the Terrakion, junk hunt with Sableye, and really press his advantage. But given what ended up happening, he's going to have to do that anyways, and he also gave his opponent a fresh hand of 6 at the same time. So, I mean, I'm not going to go so far as to call it a major misplay, but I would have liked to see him play it a little bit differently here.
So now we have some life in the Kyle's hand. We have energy switches.
Another masterful Sharon.
We have Sharons like a Juniper plus powers. We have double colorlesses. Just things are going crazy in Kyle Town over here. So like, yeah, he's gonna be able to do a lot of cool stuff. So he's loading up the Terrakion, and he's just saying, "Hey, you can either take out my Bouffalot and I can retaliate you, or I'll just simply get 2 fighting energies on this guy and just start land crushing your Darkrai's."
Yeah, he's leaving that Bouffalont out there to kind of just take a little bit more beatings and make sure that his Terrakion's going to be able to deal maximum damage for a minimal amount of energies. Now, what Vince chooses to do here is really going to tell the tale of this game. If Vince chooses to go with a Land Crush knockout, which it seems like he might, then, okay, that's actually a much better play there. He's now dealing 90 or 70 damage to this Terrakion, putting it on a 2-hit KO range while not really letting him be efficient with his energies. So that's a very good play by Vince, and I think I advantage Vince here.
So we do see maybe a Mewtwo hit with Kyle's hand. He has the Ultra Ball, he has a DCE, a plus power energy switch. What he can do is like Ultra Ball for the Mewtwo, right? And then DC on the Mewtwo plus power, energy switch the metal over, and then just kind of Juniper, hope to get the switch.
Okay.
And that would be a one-shot on the Terrakion, which would be pretty huge. And so we'll see if Kyle kind of opts for that option.
Yeah, Kyle does play, I believe, 4 switch, maybe as low as 3, but he plays no less than 3 switches. So he doesn't have that bad of a chance of actually drawing the right thing here. It's just the actual risk involved is the fact that he might just have a sitting Duck Mewtwo on the bench if he doesn't actually draw it. So there is a little bit of risk involved, but I believe it's still the correct play. I think he's not too unlikely to do it. And not to mention that the fact that the Terrakion is kind of just not doing much anyways, you know? The Terrakion's just sitting there with only being able to deal 30 damage unless he wants to commit more energies to it, which I'm sure he doesn't. And it just seems like the right play here. With that said, it's still not all that hot. Like, he's still not in the best shape here, even if he does. Well, if he does do it, he's probably in pretty good shape. But in the meantime, he's not in that good a shape.
So there's the switch.
There's a switch. Whoa. Yeah.
He's definitely doing it. And here we go. It's Mewtwo time.
Yeah, nobody ever blamed Kyle of being unlucky. So he absolutely hits what he needed to hit, and with that plus power, that Terrakion's going to go down without actually being able to get a knockout. And it's going to put Vince in a kind of a bit of a pickle here.
Yeah,
He's a good Pokemon, go figure.
So Vince's only real option here is to go counter Mewtwo. He does have the energy switch in his hand, and so at that point, you only need an energy attachment for your turn. However, he's gone through a couple energies. You know, he's gone through a couple fightings, 3 energies in the discard. He may not have a dark patch to even open up the option of 2 energy switches. So
even though that's probably true, I still think he's relatively likely to get this knockout here. He's gone through some resources, but he's got plenty left, and the free retreat that Darkrai provides is really going to come into effect here as he just retreats his Sableye and his energy switches, and I'm sure no doubt is going to Juniper right now.
Yep, here we go. Let's see if he gets it. And that's a whiff.
No way. Really? Oh, jeez.
So here is a interesting situation that we're looking at. That Kyle is just going to take 2 free prizes here. And he's going to go way ahead at this point.
That is actually extremely game-breaking. If he doesn't have the energy, he already retreated. He's trying to retreat.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in that situation either.
Mewtwo's a coward. But either way, he's just in a very unenviable position. Kyle took the much larger risk here by doing what he did, but he was almost in a position where he had to do it. Now Vince took a much smaller risk by just junipering and hoping for any energy, but he also was in a position where he kind of had to do it. So, geez, I just can't, man, I can't stress enough how unlucky Vince just got. And it was going to be a great game. It really was. It was going to be a back-and-forth battle. And the fact that Vince's Mewtwo was going to knock out Kyle's was just going to put him in such a good spot with only a damaged Terrakion and a damaged Buffalon in play. With that said, that did not happen. And unfortunately for Vince, he's now going to go down by 3 prizes total. And the Mewtwo's just going to really start to dominate. We saw that Vince only played 1 Mewtwo in the top 4. So I just don't know, man. I think bad luck got the best of Vince this game.
Yeah, I mean, what can Vince do, really? I doubt he plays 2 Mewtwo.
No, I don't believe he does.
So, he can only really Night Spear against this Mewtwo, which is not that hot, especially considering the fact that Mewtwo is starting to reach the level where it starts one-shotting Darkrai's. So yeah. It's getting really big really fast.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of calling things prematurely, and this N is exactly why. You don't want to call things prematurely because N is a very good card. But with that said, Mewtwo is just not going to get knocked out anytime soon. It just won't. That's a fact. So with that said, you kind of almost have to say, at least if maybe I'm just a quitter, but if I'm in Vince's shoes, if I don't draw an extremely good hand this turn through this end, I'm probably just kind of giving this game up. It's a best 2 out of 3, so obviously he still has the ability to win this match. He's just gonna have to kind of cut his losses and not overextend this game because it just doesn't seem like anything is really gonna happen here. That Mewtwo is just not going down. that lack of luck last turn with the missed energy is just it's crucial. It's brutal.
Yeah, so here we're going to see Mewtwo take another prize, and then at this point, Kyle has his game all but locked up. Even if that Mewtwo does go down, we still have a Terrakion and a catcher just ready to go.
Exactly.
So this game is, I don't want to call it over, but, after that one Mewtwo debacle, it's been done for quite a bit.
Yeah, I believe that Junk Hunt actually got him a Tool Scrapper as well as, I believe, a Dark Patch. Now, the Tool Scrapper is nice because it's going to get rid of both Eviolites, which is obviously a lot of value. But at the same time, Kyle's down to 2 prizes. Vince still has 6. Vince has 1 energy in play currently. And you see him Tool Scrapper just saying, all right, here's the Tool Scrapper. But he's just in such a poor spot. Even with all this entire situation, like he's gonna need a whole lot of Crushing Hammers and Enhance Hammers to go his way here.
Well, he will get a Night Spear off this turn, so that's nice. And this is gonna be a pretty nice Night Spear. So Vince looks like he's going in for the Juniper, which
He needs to capture up the Terrakion, I believe, because otherwise he just loses to Land Crush. He gets a heads on the Crushing Hammer. The Crushing Hammer gets rid of the double colorless. Another Crushing Hammer comes down here.
Oh, it gets
and
rid
another
of
head. Wow.
Yeah, it gets rid of another energy. So this is nice. He does get both DCEs. So here he's going to be in decent shape. He's going to be able to Night Spear and then 32 Terrakion, and then he's going to be able to take 3 prizes in 2 turns, which is great.
Yeah, what that double Crushing Hammer actually did was it also stopped Kyle from being able to retreat. Now, unless Kyle has a switch here, what's going to happen is the Mewtwo is going to be stuck in the active position, and he won't be able to just Land Crush for the knockout, because even though we see that he's got a fighting energy in his hand, he still doesn't have a way to get the Mewtwo into the bench.
Well, Kyle does have an N in his hand, so he can just attach the fighting energy to Terrakion.
And himself to 2.
Drop the Sigilif, yeah, and yourself to 2. And then, if you hit a switch, or Kyle does play the 1 Miser's Super Scoop Up, if he hits either one of them, then he just wins.
Yeah, he chose to actually attach the fighting energy to his active Mewtwo. Kind of playing it safe more than anything. I don't necessarily disagree with it, but it doesn't really do anything. All it's doing is securing an attack for this turn, but at the same time, the Mewtwo or the Terrakion says I'm going to 1-hit KO him anyways. Did we see a switch out of Kyle here?
No.
No.
Ooh. This ended up very poorly for Vince, as he actually just runs out of cards in his deck, and that's the game.
Oh, I didn't even notice. But yeah, I mean, honestly, Kyle had a million different ways to win this game.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think Vince was coming back. He could have took 3 prizes there, but he just didn't have enough cards in his deck. Maybe if he had just not Junipered that one turn, he would have had enough cards. But then you can make the argument that that he would have 2 double colorless energies on that Mewtwo just kind of rearing to go. So it's kind of like everything went wrong for Vince that game.
Yeah, we have to remember that. Yeah, we have to remember that really crucial turn in which Vince really had the game in the bag. It was as early as, I believe, turn 3 or turn 4. All Vince had to do was draw any 1 energy, literally any 1 energy, or something as simple as a Dark Patch with an energy switch. I'm sorry. So it's a very unfortunate situation for Vince, but that is what it is, and he lost the game because of that lack of luck there. And Kyle got a nice little surprise there, and even though he kind of had a really unfortunate start, he still managed to pull it off. Now he still has to win 1 more game to win the match, though.
Yeah, also back when Kyle's hand was kind of dead, Vince goes random receiver and then flips over N. Well, at that point, if Vince can kind of just poke for 40 a turn against the Bouffalant and not N, or he can just maybe give Kyle a new hand. And sometimes that's all Kyle needs to win. Is just like, hey, I get this 1 bad hand once, and then I'm good all game. And if I can just survive that, then yeah, and that's what kind of happened.
Yeah, that is correct. That early in, I disagreed with it for a number of reasons, but the main reason being that you don't really want to give Kyle very many options if you can afford it. Like if you see that Kyle is literally just drop passing, let him keep drop passing. You're still dealing damage, and you have a whole lot more top decks than he does. Pretty much any one of your energies is live. If you hit the fighting energy, hey, you're now going to be able to start land crushing. If you don't, you're going to be able to hit retreat and start junk hunting away and just really pushing your advantage that way. So it's I would consider it a misplay, but either way, he still had to get unlucky to lose this game.
Yeah, the real big turn was the Mewtwo turn. I think we both agree on that one.
Yeah. Now Kyle's gonna be mulliganing here. Oh no, Kyle does have a Mewtwo, and it's gonna be Vince that mulligans.
And Kyle once again with the terrible. That's what Kyle's hands are. Just terrible. Like, he gets a little better with that mulligan, but he starts with Mewtwo, going second. You know,
Yeah, Sharon actually is gonna be a lifesaver here. I don't even believe he has a double colorless energy in his hand. Now he's gonna mulligan again, and that's gonna give Kyle, I believe, that super scoop up.
yeah. So the Sharon's like this is kind of the reason why Sharon is a little bit better than Bianca. Bianca, it's great late game, but Ho-Oh has so many hands early game where it can't dump its hand. It's not one of those decks like Blastoise that can dump its hand really easily. So, Sharon is really pretty clutch early game.
Yeah, I do agree. The fact that Kyle doesn't really have a way to get rid of resources, and there's a turn one end from Vince. Here, Vince obviously just needs to draw cards. So, and also the fact that he double mulligan kind of gets negated by this end. So I like that.
Yeah, well, here's an interesting thing. Now that the fighting energy is on the Terrakion, the Mewtwo is actually, if he draws DCE, he can just X-ball the Terrakion for 60 now, and then just be like, hey, plus power, 170 or 130.
Yeah, that is correct. Now, obviously, Vince plays a whole lot of crushing hammers and enhanced hammers to try to stop that, but you are right that that's definitely a possibility here.
So we do see a computer search in Kyle's hand. DCE must be nice.
He draws the double colorless energy in a timely fashion, and he does have a Terrakion as well as an Ultra Ball in his hand. He's got all the options he can really need. That double colorless was exactly what he needed to draw, though.
Yeah, he can actually just kind of go off with this hand and just be like, hey, I'm going to Ultra Ball for Ho-Oh, and now I'm going to use that Ho-Oh to use for a computer search for a Juniper, and then just kind of go ballistic. But he opts to play it safe and be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to play this hand, even though it's pretty good, like every other hand, a.k.a. a terrible one. So, just kind of preventing a read. He doesn't really think Vince can knock out this Mewtwo, so why press the issue?
I like that one out of him. I do think that he didn't necessarily need to overextend there. So I don't mind, and I actually like the fact that he didn't choose to waste too many resources there. And the Crushing Hammer heads is nice for Vince. That does get rid of that energy. Just like I kind of expected him to. He does play an Enhanced Hammer, maybe even two, as well as, I'm sure, the full suite of Crushing Hammers. So, yeah, it was almost expected that Vince was going to get rid of the double colorless energy. And now Kyle draws his Juniper, so that means he's going to be able to computer search for a double colorless if he chooses to. He doesn't have a plus power in his hand currently, but he might choose to.
Well, he might. Yeah, he might computer search for the double colorless at this point because he did draw a Juniper. Mm-hmm. So that kind of saves him the trouble. Or he might. It's hard to say. He has a lot of options with the deck. That's really what Ho is. It's a Mewtwo deck with a lot of options. So he can maybe go for a DCE. He can go for the plus power and try to draw DCE or he can just kind of maybe sit back, build some attackers up. Maybe he wants to go Landorus. There's a whole list of things Kyle can do here, and we'll just see which option route he takes. But this one's pretty obvious. You Ultra Ball for the Ho for the computer search.
Yep, that was the obvious play there. Now he's going to use his computer search, and we're going to have to wait and see what he actually chooses to get. I think I would personally go for the double colorless. You have a Mewtwo with no damage on it. You want to take advantage of that. You want to apply pressure if you can, and if you get lucky and hit the plus power, then great. If you don't, that's fine. You still deal 60 damage to it, and you still have a pressure, which is obviously important.
Yeah, I like that route the most too, and it seems like Kyle is also favoring that route with the double colorless on top. So, yep, he goes and grabs it, and he's just going to play down the Terrakion, put double colorless on the Mewtwo and Juniper, and just kind of see what happens.
Yeah, I like the fact that he didn't show. A lot of people just get excited and they're like, well, I'm going to play it anyways. I might as well just attach it immediately onto my Mewtwo. But the fact that he didn't show is nice. It just shows that he's playing his A game here and he's not giving anything away. Now, he didn't hit the plus power. He had a couple of catchers and a bunch of energy. So he's going to be in good, reasonable shape for the mid to late game, but obviously that's not the best hand in the world.
What is going on with these cans? They're all so bad.
He's had a share, and I've seen worse. I've definitely seen worse.
Yeah, you know who you've seen worse from? Kyle.
Myself.
Oh.
No way, man. I've seen worse from myself infinite times. Now we see another end from Vince, kind of saving Kyle the trouble of having to share in and hope for some luck there. But you see Vince kind of not have the hottest hands either. The fact that he has to just constantly end to draw into something or anything really isn't very refreshing for Vince. If I'm Vince, I'm sitting there going, "Ugh, here we go again. Got to get a little help from my deck," and it's just not helping. But there's that enhanced hammer, and just like that, the deck decided to help.
Well, this N for 6 ended up being pretty nice for Vince, as it pretty much was the same as an N for 1. Because if you look at Kyle's hand, it's dead. Yeah, once again.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's another timely top deck from Kyle.
That's not even like a good top deck at this point, because look how many energy searches he has, or energy switches.
Two, right?
Two energy switches, a catcher, a switch. Oh, this is.
But he hasn't actually discarded an energy switch yet, has he?
He's about to. He kind of realizes he has to Juniper this turn, so he's gonna like Ultra Ball here. Maybe he can get Landorus. And he can like switch into Landorus and just kind of go for a fighting energy. That wouldn't be too bad.
Absolutely. Losing the energy switches does suck. You never want to lose energy switches as a Ho-Oh player. But sometimes you have to do what you have to do. And at least still has a couple more to work with. The fact that he still has a couple more just kind of makes him think that he's not going to be able to really just waste resources anymore. But luckily for him, he hasn't been so far. All of his resources are still in this deck. And the fact that he hasn't overextended is really helping him out here, because now he's going to be able to really advance his board position without regretting what he's about to discard.
Yeah, so it's nice that Kyle and I are syncing up here. So he does get the Landorus, and he's going to catcher the Darkrai with energy on it, I think, and then he goes with the one without energy. Yeah, that's fine too. It didn't really matter either way. But he's just going for the fighting energy at this point, and that
did he hit it on the last
seems
card?
Like a whiff.
No, he missed. These things happen. He only plays a very limited amount of fighting energies, as obviously the Ho deck likes to have as many different energies as possible. Mm-hmm. So that was a calculated risk that he knew that he wasn't necessarily going to actually succeed with. Now that Landorus does have a fat butt, 180 HP, so it's going to be able to survive a little bit of damage while he kind of tries to find a way to improve his board position.
Yeah, so here, Kyle is in a kind of weird situation. You have the Mewtwo with no energy, damaged a little bit. You have maybe a Night Spear coming at you, maybe a Land Crush coming at you, who really knows? So it's a tough spot he's in, but, Vince, it's all on how much pressure Vince puts on here.
Exactly, right? It seems like Vince hasn't been able to really put any pressure on him at all. The fact that he's only got 30 damage on his Mewtwo, and Vince hasn't even taken a prize yet, like, all these things really help Kyle out. The fact that Kyle hasn't done anything and has still applied more damage than his opponent, it says a lot about Vince's hands as well. We've been talking a lot about Kyle's hands being dead, but Vince hasn't really been able to do much either, and he hasn't even been able to start junk hunting, which is really like what you want to do. If you're not attacking, you at least want to be junk hunting, and he's not doing anything here. And it's going to be a very slow, methodical game by the two of these players. And there we go. We do see an energy switch from Vince going to be able to actually junk hunt this turn, which is exactly what Vince needed.
Yeah, but this is going to give Kyle a turn to just start using Hammerhead. Really get in there and just maybe get a fighting energy and then trying something out. Oh, so Kyle does go a split on Sharon and Bianca. Just really saying, hey, I have no idea what I'm doing with my supporters here.
I want to draw my Sharons early and my Bianca's late. And so far, so good.
Real no consistency on what's going on in his train of thought. He just goes, well, I just play one of everything, and I'll just play one of everything supporter and just see how it works out. Hey, we'll see.
I was about to tell you the same thing, man. I was going to say, look at his Pokemon line, look at his energy line, and tell me that you think this guy knows what he's doing. There's no way this guy knows what he's doing with his deck list. He's still kind of like figuring things out, even 6 weeks in. That's how hard this deck list is to build. But with that said, he's actually going to be able to start finding stuff, hopefully. And this turn, he's just hoping to actually start attacking now. That's his game plan.
Yeah, so he Ultra Balls some 2 Pokemon away. You know, he doesn't really need those guys, and he's just gonna get a Sigilif maybe. That's what it looks like he was looking at. But he actually opts for nothing and then just ends. You know,
yeah, I was gonna say it really doesn't matter. Like right now, the game is so stalled that he has all the time in the world to really come up with a plan. The fact that his opponent is junk hunting, even though it's nice for Vince, don't get me wrong, it's still really nice for Kyle as well. Kyle's got all the time in the world to really come up with a game plan, and he doesn't want to necessarily overextend yet.
Yeah, so here we go. He just needs the fighting energy, and then he'll be in great shape. And there it is.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's nice.
Now we're going to see some hammerheads. Yeah, we're going to see some hammerheads. That Terrakion is gone, you know, and yeah, he's in pretty good shape now.
It's interesting that Kyle's choosing not to apply the Eviolite yet. He wants to play around the Tool Scrapper as much as possible. I like that. With that said, I don't know if he's about to go back and do it anyways. But I would like to see him just kind of grip onto the Eviolite. There's no real reason to yet. You don't necessarily need to avoid the 2-hit KO yet, and you kind of want to make your opponent spend his Tool Scrapper before you do this.
Yeah, that's one of the very common little things maybe mid-level players do, is that they'll play down 2 tools against or against Tool Scrapper decks, or decks that have Tool Scrapper in it, and it's just like, well, I'm getting a 2-for-1 here, and you've never seen those tools again. Great.
See, Kyle is really thinking about it really long and hard. I was sitting there just like crossing my fingers that we wouldn't regret what we were just saying.
So,
and you'd be like, oh, okay, well, I'll play it anyways.
Well, this is a great prize card from Kyle, because he gets that plus power. You know, that Sableye should have 30 damage on it.
It will eventually, I'm sure.
And then
it's
that plus power will make the math work out real nice. So yeah, he's in great shape.
Yeah, that plus power was exactly as good as you're talking about, as good as you're saying. Now he's playing a computer search, discarding a Pokemon catcher, and I'm not actually sure what the other card is. It looks like an enhanced hammer, maybe.
Random receiver.
Oh, random receiver, same thing. Now he's going to computer search. I'm not exactly sure what he searched for, but it's always nice when you're playing a computer search.
Yeah, it looks like he got the energy switch. He's going in for the Night Spear here, and that's going to be pretty good. However, you know, all it takes is an energy switch and another fighting energy. Oh, and there's the Tool Scrapper. So
exactly.
Good
Kyle
on Kyle.
Really good. Like I was mentioning earlier, you can almost tell that Kyle was dying to play that Eviolite, and he decided against it. He really decided to wait on it, and it worked out for him, because now he's actually going to be able to apply the Eviolite the following turn, and without a Tool Scrapper, that Landorus is actually going to be able to survive a hit.
So we do see a catcher and a plus power in Kyle's hand. So, you know, once that Sableye gets the 30 damage it's supposed to have on it, I think he's going to go in with the catcher plus power, kind of hammerhead again, take another prize, and then try to follow up the next couple turns with Retaliates and Land Crushes onto Darkrai's. And I think that might be his plan of attack for this game.
Yeah, that Sableye's got a case of mistaken identity. It thinks it's a Slowpoke, but it's still going to take that 30 damage, I guarantee it. Now, as far as Kyle's turn is concerned, he is feeling good. He is feeling like he's got all the time in the world now. The fact that he didn't overplay his Eviolite is going to let him attach it to his active Landorus if he chooses to, and it's now going to survive Night Spear if he decides to go that route. He's been playing this game extremely well. I can't stress that enough. The fact that he's not overextending his resources like a lot of people normally would is just going to do a lot for him. And he plays a Bianca. Bianca's into not exactly what he needed, but he does have a catcher if he chooses to catcher up the Sableye.
Yeah, that would be. I think that would be. Well, maybe he forgot about the extra damage on the Sableye too, because like, there's still no damage on it.
Yeah, I guess they both have forgotten about it at this point. But yeah, I think I would have personally just captured up the Sableye if I remembered that it had 30 damage on it. Just because you already have a Terrakion that's going to threaten a one-hit KO on the Darkrai, you know?
Hmm. So now he's going after the Mewtwo here, and that's kind of indicating, hey, I might be able to like get a DCE off on the Mewtwo, kill your Mewtwo with my Mewtwo, and just bring it back home with Mewtwo. But
That's
it
a lot
looks,
of Mewtwo, man.
yeah, it looks like Landorus is it's probably gonna go down, yeah. And the Eviolite is on the Terrakion, nice because even though that Darkrai had a Dark Claw on it, it's still only going to do 90, which is huge.
That's correct. Now he can choose to deal 10 to it with Night Spear, which would actually make it get knocked out, correct? Yeah, it would. Now we'll have to wait and see what he does here.
Yeah, well, let's see. He goes after the Mewtwo, just kind of hoping Kyle doesn't have the fighting energy, which we know Kyle does, and that Retaliate is going to go in there for huge. And yeah, we'll just see how this. We'll see if Kyle can muster up another Terrakion or another guy to attack with. But it looks like he's just going to end here.
Yeah, the fact that Kyle ended up having the fighting energy, even though he doesn't play very many more on top of the two that he already had in play, or the one that he already had in play, is gonna put him in a good position. Obviously, he's gonna be able to knock out the Darkrai here, and now that the Dark Claw is gone from this Darkrai, he no longer even has a one-hit KO on the Mewtwo. So that's why I would have personally just dealt the 10 damage to the Terrakion. Granted, I guess it's the same end result, but I think that my Mewtwo is going to be able to take out his Mewtwo, and I just want to be able to take out that Terrakion as soon as possible.
Right. So here we see a situation where it's just Darkrai versus a Terrakion, and that never really works out for the Darkrai too well, especially when that Terrakion has all that energy on it. We see a Crushing Hammer. Tails. Ooh, that was huge.
Yeah, that is unfortunate for him. If ever there was a timely Crushing Hammer to hit, it would have been now. But he didn't, and now he deals 70 to it and hopes that his opponent doesn't have a third fighting energy, which he doesn't currently, which is nice. But he does have a hoe on the in the discard pile, so an energy switch and a rebirth heads would be pretty good for him right now.
Yeah, we might. I saw a Juniper in Kyle's hand, so we might see a Juniper incoming. Seeing how that works out for him, and let's see what he can do. He can. He has a Sigilift. Might want to bench the Sigilift down just so like protection.
Yeah, I think I would definitely bench the Sigilift at this point. Even though the Terrakion is down on the bench, you still kind of want to have a way to protect yourself, and he is. He's gonna drop down the Sigilift. I really think that Ho-Oh is gonna be a key to victory if he can manage to actually hit the resources, because he's also gonna need a Tool Scrapper or a Plus Power.
All right, so he has another catcher. He has a catcher in his hand. There's nothing really great to catcher for this turn though, so he might just go with like the Juniper and just go, "Hey, I'm going to draw my fighting energy."
You can see how much it pains Kyle to have to play Juniper with such a fat hand. These things, you never feel good as a player who discards 6 cards to his Juniper to draw 7, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. We see a Tool Scrapper. I believe we see a Super Scoop Up. The Super Scoop Up can... Okay, the Super Scoop Up can let him rebirth onto the Ho-Oh. And so basically if he rebirths the Ho, gets a fighting energy with the rebirth, if he hits a Super Scoop Up heads, he's going to be able to actually get the energy from the Ho-Oh there.
Well, that's 2 head flips. We're no...
That's well, you know what? I mean, what else does he have to do here? Like, he doesn't really have very many options. What else is he going to do? Just retaliate for a measly 40?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's really his option here. If he gets it, he just kind of wins. Look at Vince's hand. It's not really anything.
Exactly.
So we'll just see if
he's going for the rebirth.
Gets the rebirth.
Gets the heads. That's half of the thing. Now, at this point, if I'm Vince, I'm thinking, oh, God, he's got the energy switch. I'm dead. I'm dead.
Little
But
does
Kyle
he
doesn't
know
have the Super
that
Switch.
this out is actually much more outrageous.
Oh goodness, he's going for yeah, he is going for it. He's gonna go with the super scoop up. He's calculating his risk. There is a little bit of risk involved. If he doesn't hit the heads, he's gonna have it home play. Oh my goodness, he hits it. He hits the heads on the rebirth or on the super scoop up, and he's gonna be able to attach that fighting energy onto the Terrakion. Terrakion tool scrapper there. He's gonna knock out the Darkrai, go down to one prize, and he's gonna have his opponent with 0 energy in play. You can see Vince just be flustered here. I would be too if I was Vince. That was a great play by Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can't be happy about this situation as Vince.
You even
Like,
see Kyle just go like knockout, like extending his hand, like I'm sorry.
well, it was more like you just kind of like could tell with he was like, he eventually just like convinced himself with I guess this is my only option with the super scoop up play.
Oh,
So
good.
this is kind of gross. Yep, and there's a catcher, and
Oh, that's so gross.
yeah,
All right.
what a way to end the finals.
That was an exciting play by Kyle. Kyle played this game masterfully. He got a little bit lucky in the end, but he played this game extremely well. He played to his outs, and a little bit of luck helped him secure the victory. With that said, Vince had a great run here. He managed to find a way to get to the finals through the matches that we've already seen, and you know what? Kyle's a train man. Kyle is just freaking amazing at this game, and the fact that we just got to kind of witness this right now, it's pretty cool. So Vince shouldn't feel too bad. He played well. He got unlucky where it counted, and that was that.
Yeah, it was a good finals. Maybe we could have saw game 3 if game 1, that one Mewtwo turn turned out differently, and game 2, like everything just seemed to go in Kyle's favor. It was just almost like anything that could go right for Kyle, it kind of did. Like, Vince didn't get to put on too much pressure, and then at the end, Kyle gets that Mewtwo turn, or not the Mewtwo turn, but the Terrakion turn with the super scoop up on Ho-Oh. Things just kind of worked out, and yeah, that's kind of how Ho-Oh works. You just kind of do things, and eventually things just work out in your favor, or you lose.
And they're wasting no time with the paperwork and with the flash photography here. So the tournament is over. Kyle is the tournament champion here at the Rockford, Illinois City Championships, and it was awesome. It was an awesome experience to actually get to cast this, and I hope you guys all enjoyed the top 8.
Yeah, thanks guys for watching all of the top 8, top 4, and the finals of the Rockford City Championship, and stay tuned for more stuff we put out. Thanks guys for watching.
Thank you guys very much.